This business is about, what this profession is about, is communication. That is, that the cartoonist is actually a storyteller. He uses pictures just like a writer uses words. Now, if you draw the most beautiful pictures in the world, if you render the hell out of the drawing and get every nuance, every position, everything that's proper, but it doesn't communicate or tell the story or isn't clear, then you're not a cartoonist. That doesn't make you a bad person, but you're not a cartoonist. Cartoonist is essentially a storyteller. That's what it's all about. Now imagine, you have drawings that you've done. You have an idea for a story. You're drawing with pictures. You're drawing pictures that don't move. The pictures that you draw are still. Now, any of you who have looked at a comic book, if you've looked at a story that's really good, that's done properly and done well, if the sequences are designed well by the cartoonist, if the panels follow each other properly, if it's clear, then you will read that book and actually feel that the pictures are moving. You will actually feel that from one panel to another, that movement that has occurred between the panels, that's created by the panel border separating the two panels, actually moves from one panel to the other. If you can get a smooth flow of action and recognize what's happening in each one of the panels, the cartoonist has done his job. Now that is not an easy thing to do. I remember as a kid reading Hal Thorson's Tarzan in the newspapers. It came out every week. I used to wait for Sundays like crazy, waiting for that Sunday paper so I could look at the Tarzan, especially Foster's stuff. And when I was reading his material, I'd laid out on the floor, I'd spread the newspapers out, and I was holding on to Tarzan's back as he was flying through the jungle. That's how realistic, that's how well he told the story. That's how credible those pictures were. He had sequences that were literally animated. He would show a group of animals. Now imagine this. He would show a group of animals, apes, flying through the trees in the jungle. And he designed it so that each animal was in a different position, as if he were doing an animated strip, so that one animal would be in one position, the next one would be a little further in another position, all in the same panel. And the next one would be in a further position and so on, so that the reader didn't even realize that they were looking at an animated action that was taking place with still pictures. That's magic. That's really, really magic. And that's the kind of things that we try to teach at the school. It's not the brush, although when you're starting, it's important to have good material. It's not the brush that does the drawing. It's not the pen that does the drawing. It's not the pencil that does the drawing. It's the person that's holding. And you can do a lot of things. As a matter of fact, using the tool that you're not accustomed to could result in an illustration that you never really expected. You're doing stuff, the textures will change, the forms will change. I used to pick up colored paper, draw with a heavy black marker, and then pick up whites with an opaque white. And it looked pretty interesting to me. So I'll try whatever tools are at hand to see what the tools and tools can help and add to what I have in my mind. I tell my students constantly about the use of reference is absolutely critical, because most of the stuff that we do is really very highly imaginative, off-the-wall kind of stuff. The only thing that makes superhero look credible are credible backgrounds. If you put the superhero flying over a bunch of cardboard boxes with the squares cut out of it, I mean, you can't believe that that's what's really happening, or that's a building, or that's New York. However, if you put that superhero, maybe even poorly drawn, flying over a city with the details precise and carefully rendered, suddenly the character itself takes on a credibility that it otherwise would not have. And that's true with everything, every kind of subject matter you use it. It could be you drawing guys on a horse. You've got to give enough information, and you've got to be careful. Those of you who are drawing have to be careful that you use the reference, and the reference does not use you. And that I mean, you don't get a piece of reference and try to juxtapose that particular style or that particular position into your drawing. What you should be doing is get as much reference as you can on a particular subject matter. For instance, if you're drawing a horse, or a lion, or a tiger, whatever it might be, you get it from different angles. Even better than that is to go down to the zoo and make sketches of it, so that you know what the animal looks like, what it moves, how it moves. And when you draw that collective, if you're putting a guy on a horse and a horse doesn't look like a real horse, you just wasted a heck of a lot of time doing the drawing that nobody believes. So reference is extremely important. When I'm planning out the story, I'm starting to pencil stories, I'm laying out the visuals or the sequences or the patterns, I can only listen to music. I cannot listen to talk radio. I have to concentrate completely until the ceiling is full in my room. I would not even hear it because I'm concentrating completely and totally on drawing under my hand. That's a lifesaver. Those of you who haven't gotten to that point of your drawing, whatever problems you have, whatever thoughts that whatever problems that you have at home, with your family, with your husband, or whatever, kids, whatever the heck it might be, disappear. When I'm sitting at that drawing table, my complete mind and concentration is on that drawing. If it wasn't, I'm not doing the best work I can. If my mind wasn't on it, as I described it, the joy and the pleasure I'm getting at that drawing.
Thanks, Joe, for doing this.